Since ancient times, mankind has been tirelessly striving to unravel the mystery of its existence, and this thirst for knowledge has not diminished to this day. Perhaps the reason lies in the unique realization of the finitude of existence, which distinguishes us from other inhabitants of the planet. Each of us faces the question, what happens between birth and the inevitable end? Are we just insignificant elements of a grandiose cosmic picture? Or are we trying to piece together something we don't even know about? Since childhood, we have been confronted with various explanations designed to fill this gaping void. Some find answers in religion, believing in the existence of a creator who reveals a higher purpose, while others turn to science, where each discovery only raises new questions. But even this is not enough, because in the depths of our consciousness echo the eternal questions. Why am I here? Why do things happen the way they do? And why do I care at all? Imagine life as a huge library, where each person is a unique book filled with their own stories, experiences, and unfinished chapters. However, no one knows who is the author of this library or the purpose for which it was created. We read, learn, love, and hate, while realizing that sooner or later all books will be closed. But what is it that makes us ask such profound questions? Perhaps it is a desire for control, an attempt to order chaos and make uncertainty more acceptable. Or maybe it is our conscience, the double-edged sword that gives us the ability to create, love, and compassion, but at the same time makes us suffer from the realization of our own mortality and the imperfection of the world. And while we search for answers, time moves inexorably forward, pushing us toward the inevitable finale. What is the idea of not believing in anything? This is the essence of nihilism, a philosophical movement that questions not only our established beliefs, but the very need for them. At the heart of the nihilistic worldview is the concept that there is no immanent purpose or objective meaning to existence. From the point of view of nihilism, everything we used to consider important and meaningful, love, morality, achievement, is just a product of human imagination, an attempt to give meaning to a chaotic reality. To better understand nihilism, we can imagine a theater stage where all the sets have been dismantled, the lights have been turned off, and the script has been lost. The spectator remains in place, but devoid of any reference points or goals. For some, this emptiness can be frightening, representing an abyss that forces a person to come face to face with their vulnerability. For others, on the contrary, it is a liberation, a chance to create something fundamentally new in a space where nothing is predetermined. The word nihilism itself comes from the Latin nihil, which means nothing. However, contrary to popular belief, nihilism should not be identified with pessimism or apathy. Pessimism implies a negative evaluation of the world, while nihilism simply denies the existence of any predetermined meaning. If a pessimist sees a glass half empty and an optimist sees a glass half full, the nihilist questions the very necessity of the glass's existence. The question of the meaning of being questions the very necessity of thinking about the filling of our life's glass. Friedrich Nietzsche, a prominent thinker whose name is inextricably linked with nihilism, warned of the consequences of the destruction of established beliefs and traditions, which, in his opinion, would deprive humanity of its reference points. His famous phrase, "God is dead," is not a literal statement, but a metaphorical reflection of the collapse of moral and social values that served as the foundation for human existence. What happens if we are deprived of these pillars? It is like the destruction of a house, leaving one in an open, unprotected space without direction. But nihilism is not only the subject of philosophical discussions or dusty treatises. It permeates our daily lives, manifesting itself in the most mundane situations. Have you ever wondered why we rigorously follow a host of social norms, such as rising early, working, or striving for material wealth. The nihilistic view suggests that we do so under the pressure of external circumstances rather than because of an inner conviction of their importance. And this is where a complex and multifaceted question arises. In a situation where the world around us loses its logic and meaning, a legitimate question arises about the appropriateness of continuing to exist. The encounter with nothingness can certainly cause discomfort and fear, but at the same time, it is an integral part of the human experience. It is at moments when everything around us collapses that one encounters the paradox of nihilism. The belief in the absence of meaning itself becomes a form of conviction. This paradox leads to the following question: is nihilism the final end of everything or the starting point for something new? How can something emerge from absolute emptiness? This is the central contradiction of nihilism that makes this philosophy both attractive and troubling. By claiming to believe in nothing, one unwittingly forms a belief system, a belief in the absence of belief. In this way, nihilism ceases to be an absolute vacuum and takes on a certain form. But what does this mean in practice? Let us imagine an artist standing in front of a blank canvas. For some, this blank screen may symbolize an existential emptiness that paralyzes the will. For others, it is the embodiment of absolute freedom and the possibility of creating something completely new and unique. Nihilism appears as a pristine blank slate that discards previous attitudes and forces a person to face the prospect of independent creation of meanings, even if they are ephemeral and deeply personal. Friedrich Nietzsche, a perceptive thinker, saw nihilism as an inevitable phase in the development of humanity, a period of crushing outdated foundations in order to clear space for future possibilities. He argued that in order to triumph over nihilism, it is necessary to nurture in oneself the creator of one's own values. This concept leads to a profound reflection. If we give meaning to the world around us through our own attitudes, how can we resolve the paradox of nihilism in the context of everyday life? A person living with such a worldview is free to reject conventional norms and create meaning on his own. He finds it in small deeds, in acts of mental generosity, in the perception of musical harmonies, or in the simple enjoyment of a moment of silence. These actions, despite the absence of a higher predetermined purpose, gain value by virtue of personal choice. However, the question arises, if good and evil are merely human inventions, how can we evaluate our own actions and the actions of others? This question can be uncomfortable, but it also prompts a rethinking of systems that were previously taken for granted. Do we follow our beliefs because we truly believe in them, or because they are imposed on us? When faced with imposed beliefs, a legitimate question arises: what will replace them? This paradox, where nihilism simultaneously denies and affirms, leads to an interesting conclusion. Perhaps it is not a dead end, but rather an invitation to rethink, a chance to abandon the search for universal truths and instead create our own authentic answers. But the question arises, what to do with this newfound freedom? How to turn apparent meaninglessness into a meaningful existence? If nihilism places one in the face of emptiness, how does one fill it? This is an important question that arises at the conclusion of the philosophical journey. Nihilism calls for abandoning the search for ready-made meanings, but this need not plunge one into a state of apathy or despair. On the contrary, it can be a stimulus to rebuild life on one's own terms. Initially, the picture may seem bleak, as if after a fire with no signs of life. But over time, new shoots break through, and the landscape is transformed into something new and unexpected. The same thing can happen to a person when he or she realizes that the previous foundations of meaning have collapsed. The void left by nihilism need not be eternal. Life provides us with fertile ground to cultivate our own ideas, values, and aspirations. Friedrich Nietzsche called this an act of creation, a process of forming new orientations. In his opinion, to overcome a nihilistic worldview, we need to become creators of our own destiny, individuals capable of finding meaning and value in the world around us, even if there is no external confirmation of their truth or correctness. This thesis leads to a reflection. What would a person choose to value, realizing the absence of universal, predetermined meaning? Perhaps it would be creativity, be it painting, music, or literature. Close relationships filled with love and mutual understanding, unique life experiences that enrich the inner world. In everyday life, the search for purpose in a world devoid of objective meaning can manifest itself in the ability to appreciate simple joys. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee on a frosty morning, the melody of a song that touches the innermost corners of the soul, or sincere laughter among loved ones. Such moments prove that meaning does not have to come from global concepts, but can be created daily, step by step. Albert Camus, exploring the absurdity of human existence, urged to imagine Sisyphus happy. In his opinion, even the most meaningless and monotonous task, such as the eternal rolling of a stone up a mountain, can become a source of satisfaction if it is perceived as a challenge and an opportunity to exercise one's will. In the search for an overarching meaning, humankind discovers true beauty in everyday existence, in the very act of living, in the ability to feel and experience. To overcome the oppressive emptiness of nihilism is not to blindly deny nothingness, but to use it wisely as a foundation for new beginnings. It is the realization that if fate does not offer ready-made goals, we have the unique freedom to create them ourselves. And this freedom, though fraught with difficulties, opens before us boundless horizons of possibilities. Thus, the study of nihilism is completed, but every person faces an urgent question: how to dispose of this emptiness? What meaning will he decide to put into his life? After all, as the poet Rainer Maria Rilke astutely observed, the most important journey is the journey that takes place within ourselves, in the depths of our soul.